This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge.
Hi, friends. Welcome to this week's pod, the show for the week of March 10th, 2025. And Phil, we've got an interesting show. Not that any other show is not interesting. I don't know how this one's going to go. So, South by Southwest was this week. So, we're going to talk about all sorts of tidbits that just drove up a lot of people's comments about the upcoming projects.
Yes.
So, Diz Twitter is in a tizzy. The forums are in a tizzy. All Disney fandom is in a tizzy. I don't know why I'm using the word tizzy, but it seems
appropriate, at least for some of it.
We're going to finally get to the Rankum game, assuming we have time. And of course, you know us, we're going to make time, darn it. Phil, you have your next Disney adventure plan, so you're going to mention that. I don't know where we're going to put it, but we're going to surprise, jump out somewhere in the show and be like,
okay.
So what's
you
next?
Give me the cue when you give me the secret word or whatever.
Phil brought this up after our show last week, and I'm like, my goodness, I am so jealous of your next adventure. But, of course, the DBC engagement of what you're excited about in Epic Universe. We had some engagement with that, so we're going to put that out there. I don't know how much – it didn't get a lot of engagement, Phil. I thought, people kind of just put their answer, but it didn't invoke any conversation. I think people are kind of like –
Yeah, I thought there might be more because we do have somebody on our Discord who is a team member over at Universal and has been going to the preview events and has been posting a lot of good tidbits and answering questions and stuff like that. And there's been good engagement with that. Mm-hmm. But I guess people are thinking maybe taking a little more wait and see attitude, but we'll see.
I don't think people think it's real just yet, only because they can't get tickets for it. So
I think that's actually that's definitely impacting my excitement a little bit. If I had a ticket in hand, if they were selling the single day tickets, I'd probably be more all over it. But
and you just said, I saw in Discord that you booked a couple nights at the Helios.
We did, yeah. They're fully refundable until 5 days or 9 days or something before we would go in August. The idea is to go for a couple nights before Destination D23, which. We still don't have tickets for that either, so the whole trip might fall apart. But everything I have booked so far is fully refundable. So.
You're going to be in Orlando in August. I'm sure you can find something to do because it's beautiful weather down there.
Not hot at all.
Yeah. Before we start, apparently, friend of Phil's joined our YouTube community. Dave is eating a sandwich. Is his name? So welcome to the community. Hop on Discord, please. And for everybody else up there, our social media accounts at the DBC Pod everywhere. Apparently, X was down all day, and as I'm eagerly awaiting the signing of Aaron Rodgers to the New York Giants, Twitter is down. So, that being said, couple quick hits. I snuck these in here, Phil. Phil usually writes the news. I stuck in some quick hits. I don't know if this is something that we were, surprised about it all, but they confirmed that Restaurantosaurus and the Boneyard are going to be open through the rest of the year. I guess the only thing that was closed is basically the carnival section, and that was it, right?
Yeah,
so the restaurant
exactly. Yeah, they had previously specifically said Dinosaur, the ride, would be open through the end of the year. And I think then Scott Gustin looked at the wording even closer, and then for one of these, it specifically said through the end of the year, and the other one said into 2020. I don't know, but it seems like you're going to have a good amount more time to see the rest of Dino Land, other than like you said, the Chester and Hester's area where we did see the big dinosaur, the Cementosaurus, I think they call it, was destroyed, and we were way off with our before and after date.
We're definitely going to talk about that. So anyway, if you have some nostalgia for Restaurantosaurus, I can't wait till it's gone because I cannot say the name of that restaurant at all. It's a tongue twister for me. But they're going to be open. So if you have, I'm interested in that because my kids have never played in the Boneyard before. So when we go there in the summer, we're just like, all right, this is your last chance. Go run around for 15 minutes or something. Yeah. So we're going to see that. Flower and Gardens underway. I know a lot of the normal sites in Twitter are showing all the topiaries and all this other stuff, but we haven't really brought it up on the show. I don't know if there's much that we could talk about it because we're not going to be there and experience it. But one of the cool things I noticed was Communicore Hall had put their display out. And to me, I think it looks rather fantastic. One of the things that I noticed is all of the furniture in there has new colors, has a new look, kind of blends in with like, flower looks, like there's sharp blues and oranges and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of neat. And it's certainly better than it was, prior to what was the last one?
Yeah, so the previous one was Festival of the Arts, where it had all
yep.
the Broadway stuff, and that had like sort of the dramatic lighting and everything. So from what I've seen from various vloggers and stuff like that, it sounds like this isn't quite as good as the Broadway thing, but it's like better than anything before that. So hopefully this is sort of like the new standard, I guess. And one other thing that was interesting was there's no merch for sale in Communicore Hall. Before that was one of the places you could go to get festival specific merch, but there's nothing there now. It's just the tables and the food booth and the topiaries and stuff like that. No, it definitely makes it a little more relaxing, I guess, for lack of a better word, that you don't have people rushing there to get there and feel like you're in a store. Like
you're chilling out. Which it was a pretty kind of a zen space. From just a couple pictures that I shot, they had nice lighting, and they have like projections on the walls. They have, I believe, like the coloring panels like above the farmers market, like marquee on the top is really cool. Or farmers
and
feast,
even on the
called.
ceiling, like above one of the big circular lights, they have like decorations up there. So they kind of, it's maybe not as dramatic as the Broadway stuff, but they've gone more all over with it.
It's kind of tough to beat like actual props from Broadway shows though. So, but I think they did a good job. So I was appreciative of that. Disney Starlight put out their new poster, and I don't think there was anything like earth shattering with this other than it's a cool poster. It's getting closer to being a reality.
Yeah, it seems nice. This is going to be the poster that'll be, in the frame underneath the train station when you're coming in. So it's sort of like the coming attraction for it. I know a lot of people have been wondering, well, when is this actually going to open? In the article, it said in just a few months, which to me means June-ish, something like that. I know the Steve who runs WDW Magic said initially his article said late summer, and everyone's like, wait, late summer? I didn't know that. And he's like, no, sorry, that was a typo. I had Test Track on the mind. He revised it to midsummer. But one thing I thought was interesting was he added kind of in the forum post was, I believe the exact opening is still somewhat up in the air. There's a ton of work left to do with this going on. And it isn't going to be early summer. Exactly when depends how it all goes. But then he added, the way things are planning out, Walt Disney World has a stream of new things between May and September, so it might actually work out quite well. So
I want to see this when I'm there in July. I'm getting nervous with
I know
messaging like that. But I'm going at the end of July. That's definitely mid.
Yeah, unless there's some like issue or something like that, I think end of July you should be okay. I think I was initially thinking Memorial Day, maybe it's more July 4th-ish or something, but you figure they're going to want to get it going before like the party season starts, because then it's only like every other day or whatever.
Well, you got to think, like, I consider August for Disney late summer, right? Because people are going back to school at the end of August, everything else like that. So late summer to me is like August, September timeframe. So anyway, we'll see. There's a little bit of tidbits. However, the meat of this week is the SXSW, South by Southwest conference. It's mostly a tech conference.
Yep.
This is not something where it's about entertainment or movies or IP. It's about technology, gadgets, that sort of thing. You live blogged it, so I'm gonna turn the show notes over to you, Phil. What happened?
Yeah, so I kind of just typed up notes while I was watching the conference and kind of made that into a Facebook post. So I kind of expanded that a little bit on in the show notes. But we knew going in that Disney was going to have a session out there. It was led by Disney Experiences Chairman Josh D'Amaro and Disney Entertainment Co-Chairman Alan Bergman. And they conducted the session was titled "The Future of World Building at Disney." But as Jason mentions, this is kind of a tech conference, so it was all sort of how technology helps with this world building and helps with Disney telling stories and stuff like that. I'd also add that Disney announced, and then it came out today, the next episode of the We Call It Imagineering YouTube series. I think it's the first one in like a year since they put out. I kind of thought they forgot about it, but they did put it out, and it was all focused on ride vehicles, but a lot of what they covered overlapped with what was covered at the conference. So I'm kind of going to talk to both things at the same time. So South by Southwest, it says it dedicates itself to helping creative people achieve their goals, and the conference is for basically creative people to come together and meet and start talking about things like that. So as the session started, the first thing I thought of was the intro music, and like sort of the little banner, thing on the stream definitely made me think news about Monsters Inc. Land was coming. And that was to be the case. I think the big question going into this was, were we going to get any actual like news or tidbits or something, or was it going to be a complete, nothing burger, as they said? And I think you'll find out that it was definitely not a nothing burger. It's not like the D23 Expo or anything like that, but we got maybe a little bit more than people were expecting. The whole intro video and sort of the introduction they did gave me I know this is Universal's things, but the whole like ride the movies. So they would show a clip like from Avatar the movie and then show somebody riding Flight of Passage and kind of the idea. And that got talked about a lot with the intros between Josh and Alan, was sort of how the parks play off the films and the TV plays off the parks, and it kind of goes back and forth. And the example he gave was Pirates, how it started as a ride, then became the movie, then they integrated the movie back into the parks and that sort of thing. So that was sort of the theme of this, but with technology and how technology enables that.
I find it interesting that they're using the language that you have IP that can start off in ride, turns into a movie, or vice versa, and it bounces back and forth. And that goes to the whole conversation where people want original IP in the parks. And I think this is either going to be, potentially good news or bad news for people that are pro IP or original IP for the parks. I'm not anywhere in this conversation because I think all IP for Disney is original. Whether I don't care if it happens in the studios first or the parks to remain, but I think people are going to have to get used to that. The parks are where you go to live the fantasies and things that you love about Disney. See the characters, experience the stories, that sort of thing. And people always like to mention that, back in the day, there was so much original park IP and no movie IP. We wanted like that. I just want to say before I get into another diatribe, or longer diatribe, I should say, is that there's so much more IP now in 2025 than there was in 1955 that they had to create park original IP because they didn't have a back catalog of things to put in there, versus today where they've got, decades upon decades of unused IP that they can pull stories and experiences from. So I like how they're focusing on building experiences that you're familiar with, that you love, that you want to be part of in the parks. And I think that's great.
Yep. So there are three main sections to the presentation. And the first one covered Star Wars. The very beginning of the show, of the panel, before even Josh and Alan came out, you had the Mandalorian and Grogu were out with some of the BDX droids and stuff like that. So you kind of got a flavor for what this was going to be. But for this session, they brought out different people for each session. For this one, it had Jon Favreau came out along with Imagineers Leslie Evans and Asa Kalama. And they talked about what was going to be coming to Batuu. And those are two different things. One was they brought out again the BDX droids, which are those little droids that walk around on two legs and stuff like that. And they talked about all the technology behind them. And they had some fun videos where they like poke it with a stick and it gets all like wobbly, but has to like regain its balance and stuff.
Robot
like that,
abuse. Droid abuse.
Exactly. And they also had a new version of it because they're like, well, what happens when they need a repair? And they had one that walked out and had an Anzellan animatronic on top of it, which is who Babu Frick is, an Anzellan from The Rise of Skywalker. So they basically said they're building up this. With 3D printing and stuff like that, they're able to make these, quicker and cheaper and stuff like that. And so they're not only becoming to Disneyland, but they'll be coming to Walt Disney World. They'll be coming to Tokyo and to Paris, where all the different Star Wars areas are. No timeline for this, but I think it was exciting to see that, I think they've only been in Disneyland in California so far. So knowing they're coming to Florida and other places is pretty cool.
I'm so excited for this, only because Disney World is finally getting some fun toys to play around with. And the fact that they're bringing them that far away from Burbank and everything else out there is that they're confident that the technology is going to work. It's going to work amongst people. When they talk about 3D printing and stuff like that, that tells me that, these can get all scuffed up and potentially abused by some unwieldy, guests, that they're okay risking it because they can get parts out and fix it, and it's relatively cheap. So they're not going to be as protective. Obviously, they're going to have cast members walk around with them. But it's not going to be like they're going to be on stage, hopefully. And
we'll see what it is, because they don't have these types of things as often at Walt Disney. That was what I was kind of wondering, was if they would be out. But that's a good point, that if they think they can make them cheaper and replacements and stuff like that, then maybe if it gets broken, it's not the end of the world, where like when they just have like the one R2-D2 or something like that, they can't get damaged. Right? Yeah. The other thing they talked about was the new mission coming to Smuggler's Run, which will involve the Mandalorian and Grogu. And they said that it's going to come out the same day as the movie comes out, which is May 22nd, Memorial Day weekend of 2026. So it's interesting they gave us an actual date, it's also interesting. It's almost like well over a year away. But it's interesting, and it's Jon Favreau said this isn't going to retell what happens in the movie. It's more like you're participating in something that's happening just off camera from what you see in the film. So there's definitely going to be sort of relevance to the movie, which I'm sure that's why it's not coming out before the movie comes out. The other thing was interesting. They showed concept art for like places you're going to go, and it included some places from the original trilogy. They showed Tatooine, because everything with Star Wars has to involve Tatooine.
Of course.
Cloud City, and then they showed the destroyed remains of the second Death Star above Endor and stuff like that. So I don't know if you're going to go to all three. They only talked about one adventure, but this almost sounds like maybe there's different options or something like that. I don't know, but we'll see. But I think people are just glad something's coming to this and it's going to be updated, but maybe a little bummed it's over a year away.
I mean, I can see why they're doing this. It means it's a promotion for the film. I think it's good marketing. Yeah, it stinks that it's not going to be sooner, but I wasn't really expecting that to happen this year anyway, after it was announced last year. I'm really curious how they're going to integrate that with the movie. I hope the movie is good. I'm always a fan of good Star Wars, but I'm crossing my fingers on that one. But like, I like how they're bringing some of the original trilogy things, right? That's what people wanted since Star Wars Land was announced, right? So I think this is the way to do it. Now, the really interesting thing is, how are they going to do the queue with Hondo and everything else like that? Is Hondo just going to be like, because basically no one knows who Hondo is unless you're like a Clone Wars, fan, right? That's where he comes from. So the vast majority of people do not know who a cartoon figure is from like the early 2000s.
Yep.
So they could use him to tell a story, and it's not really going to affect like the things going on. I just hope that he has like a different spiel. Obviously, he's going to have to, right? It's not going to be, you're not going to get coaxium at the Death Star, right?
Yeah. Hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting too if he's in the movie or something like that to explain that. I hope it's not just super shoehorned in, but we'll see.
He's going. Filoni's going to shoehorn every single character he has ever made in the movies. It's going to happen.
The second session was around Pixar stuff. They covered Monstropolis and Cars Land as well, updates. So two big things coming to Walt Disney World. So they had Pixar Chief Creative Officer Pete Docter was there, along with Imagineer Michael Hungen. Hope I said his name right. So obviously you can get a trend in here where they're having somebody from like the creative side and somebody from Imagineering, and kind of how they're working together and bounce ideas off each other. The first area they covered was what Monstropolis coming to Hollywood Studios. And specifically, we're talking about the door coaster and the technology that went into that, and how many different versions they worked through it, and how they've been working on it for a long time. I didn't know it had an actual name. I thought it was just like a rough animation. I guess it's called an animatic of the load area for the door coaster. And it's they're very excited about this. It's going to be the first ever suspended coaster at a Disney park, and also the first one that has a vertical lift. Which looked really interesting. I mean, it's really that you're going to go onto the floor, the laugh floor, and there's like 4 different loading areas, and it's kind of going to be a lot of like, I guess, hectic energy, for lack of a better word. And it's going to be just like that scene in the movie where you sit in the thing like you're in a door, thing comes down and lifts you right up to the ceiling, and then off you go.
That show building is going to be absolutely fantastic. Like you're entering on the ground level, and the only thing I can like imagine or describe it as is, instead of coming in Guardians of the Galaxy or Tron and working your way down, you're starting on the floor, and then you load, and then you get tossed up. Well, not tossed, but you get elevated up and then off on the ride. Another thing I really like what they mentioned is like you're going to see other trains or whatever it is through the ride, which is really cool, because they also explained why about that on the YouTube video that came out, because seeing all these things pass by, just like the movie, I think that's really great. There's some naysayers out there about the ride vehicle and it doesn't spin, and it's not original, so why are they I mean, there's a lot of nonsense out there. But I'm super stoked about this. I think it's going to be a really unique attraction. The loading is going to be really fun. I don't know. I just think this is going to be like a great experience at Hollywood Studios. I can't wait for it.
Yep. And they showed in the loading, you kind of like, the seats will be facing you, and you get in, and then as it goes up, it rotates you, kind of like just how you saw the doors rotate when they got pulled up and stuff like that. So they will have the ability to spin we only saw the loading area, so it might just be for the loading process. We don't know if it's going to spin during the ride like Guardians does or not, but they at least have that ability.
I have to assume that they're going to use that if they have it, right? It's not going to just be for loading, but I don't know, we'll see.
And I think it was somebody on our Discord, I think it was Wheezy, who raised the point that, do you think this whole kind of chaotic scene or entry scene where things are, lifting way up in the air and stuff like that, do you think there could be some kids that are excited for the ride get to that point and be like, I'm not doing that, that's like too much for me? Like, could you see some kids chickening out from that?
Oh, sure. I mean, kids will chicken out for anything, right? When they finally, because this is going to be fully enclosed, so you can't like watch it from a distance and get used to it, right? I know my son was terrified for Rock and Roller Coaster the first time. Like, he was like all gung ho, I want to ride it, because that was the last roller coaster he didn't do at Disney World, right?
Okay.
So he's done like the Merlin at Dutch Wonderland, which is a suspended coaster. He's done all sorts of different things. But once he saw that ignition go right through, with the takeoff, he was petrified. He loved it afterwards, right? And became one of his favorite rides. But there's definitely gonna be a moment. I just don't think, as long as they kind of have it like the claws in the movie where they kind of raises up, it's just like a clean like raise. It's not jerky. It doesn't go quick. That type of thing. I think kids will be fine with, unless they have a unique fear of heights, which is always something that can be an issue with roller coasters.
Sure. Then they also talked about Cars Land coming, and specifically around the main Cars attraction that's going to be through the, I guess, Pacific Northwest or outside terrain and national park type area and stuff like that. And they started talking a lot about how the process the Imagineers are going through to get the look and feel that they want. They talked about them going off on these expeditions and ATVs and stuff like that. And then they said they had a motocross company built like a course for them, basically. Mm-hmm. And then they have a custom made sort of ATV type thing or four-wheeler with sensors all over it. And they're driving it around to try to like kind of figure out the motions and what they want to do. They showed a little bit of a mock-up of like a toy-sized ride vehicle that they're working through. One thing that jumped out at people was this seemed to be on a track or at least a guide, whereas before the indications were this would be trackless. So that was one of the things that I guess got people in a tizzy. We know that the We Call It Imagineering showed a little bit more of this, including what might be the track layout for this and that sort of thing. Everything in that video was very like 3 seconds this, 3 that, so it was a little hard to tell.
I'm pretty sure that track was Radiator Springs.
Yeah, the one on the screen definitely was. People thought the model was something else. I don't know, but I guess it doesn't really matter. But
I don't think they showed anything that was a mock-up of the Cars Land attraction.
Okay.
The only thing you got was like the actual dirt that they're using to kind of test the experience and the points of view and that type of thing. I think that's the only thing that has to do with that attraction other than the concept art that we saw. Yeah. What I found interesting that got everybody crazy was the model of that truck, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's automatically saying, oh, it's going to be a clone of Radiator Springs. I wouldn't mind a clone of that attraction over here. That seems like a very fun attraction for everybody. I was very skeptical that they were going to use AGVs in this. It would have been amazingly cool, but I work with them in real life. I know that they're not reliable whatsoever.
Yeah.
In an outdoor environment. And, I can't see them doing something like that and having 2,000 people go through that attraction an hour with kind of that kind of thing. So a track makes sense. I like the idea of a track just because it makes the ride more predictable, more
reliable.
Reliable is the word I was looking for. Thank you. And the only thing I'm kind of disappointed in, and I hope this was just the silly model that they used, but you had a track and you were pushing the vehicle around the track and they had these bumps inserted that you could kind of see it kind of work around. I really hope that there's like dirt there or pseudo dirt, concrete, foam, whatever they might use for the terrain. And it's not just like the ride vehicle itself is going over the terrain and you're not seeing any kind of movement of the vehicle itself with like hydraulics or something else, like kind of like the Indy ride or the dinosaur ride type of thing. Were you disappointed when you saw that track? What was going through your mind when you first saw that?
My big, not specifically for that. I mean, my big takeaway is kind of what you're saying. I'd rather there be a track and it be a great ride than it be trackless, but less because they were just so focused on the technology and just making that work and that sort of thing. So I don't think that's like an automatic, like, oh, now it's going to be bad type thing. It just felt like they're not there yet with the ride vehicle. And it just got me a little bit nervous because this is, I mean, that's kind of what the big tizzies. I mean, everyone's still going on about, taking out the rivers of America and stuff like that. And that
We'll talk
I
about
just
that
think
in a
they
second.
need, I just think they need to nail this, and for them to still kind of, it feels like they know what they want it to do, but it's not there yet. And I know there's still time. It's not, they haven't even announced a close date for the rivers and stuff like that. But it just got me a little nervous, because I think I'm just nervous that this isn't going to be perfect and isn't going to be amazing. And if they're not there yet, there's some uncertainty around it.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing that was kind of disappointing was that they're at this technology conference, and what they showed with the car wasn't anything like fancy, right? Like it's a next version of Test Track / Radiator Springs. Now, whatever this is, Cars Land type of thing. I'm stoked for it. I think it's going to be a fun experience. I just hope that it's something worthy, like you mentioned, replacing Rivers of America.
Yeah.
I at this point am confident that they can replace Rivers of America with something great. It's not going to look great for some time until Villains Land is like in place and like the whole thing kind of meshes with that whole experience.
Yeah, it's got to be the whole thing,
right?
Sure.
So, yeah. I just my issue is I just hope that I have confidence that they could do it, just because I've seen what they've been doing at the other parks, especially Tokyo. It's still those Imagineers designing those things. It might be the Oriental Land Company funding it, or at least partially funding it, but it's still WDI talent that's building it, right?
Yeah.
And I think with Josh D'Amaro biding his time, or in the attempting to maybe become the next CEO, this is a huge thing. Like replacing Rivers America, there's only two people that can approve this, and that's Iger and Josh D'Amaro, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to have his fingerprints on it. So if he's successful at becoming the CEO, and if he is the next CEO, it'll be a year from now or so that we'll find out that it's him. This will then go be built in a year after that. He doesn't want to be another Chapek where he just has this big giant like pie in the face moment. He just ruined the Magic Kingdom and it's all his fault. He won't be the CEO for very long if that happens. Conversely, if he's not the CEO and this blows up in his face, he might not have a chance to ever be the CEO, because he's still a young guy in executive years at this point, right? So, if it's Alan Bergman or what's the other woman executive that's from part of the studios? She came from Fox. I'm beating myself. I can't remember her name, but there are three of them are the internal candidates for running. They're all relatively young people. I don't think Disney wants to have a CEO for like 20 years like Iger was at this point.
Right.
So I think Josh truly loves working for Disney, right? I think he does have a lot of people doubt that, but I think he actually likes working for the company, and I don't think he wants to be the person known for ruining Magic Kingdom. We already had a Chapek, and I think he might have learned his lesson not to be that guy, right? So he wants his last thing. Anyway, that being said, what you had a couple posts that I was reading on the WDW Magic forums and on Discord about your hesitancy about Rivers of America. Like, you don't want to see it go, but you hope that it's right. Where are you right now? Like Len Tessa likes to say, in your stages of grief. He's already at acceptance. Like, where are you right now in your whole thought process?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the main position I have, and I feel like it's having arguments on both fronts, which Napoleon taught us never to do, is I don't think there's anything like sacred. Like, it's not like this can never be removed, the Rivers of America. But if you're going to do it, you got to hit a home run. You got to nail it. And I just don't know if this is the right thing to replace it. It's Cars in general. I don't know if it'll fit. And maybe the finished product will change my mind. I'm trying to go in with an open mind and that sort of thing. So I guess I'm wary, but with an open mind versus cautiously optimistic. I don't know the right term, but like, I know a lot of people are just saying you can't remove it, period. Like, it's just something that's got to be there forever. And I'm not there. I think if it's warranted, go for it. If there was a way to keep it and still accomplish what you wanted, that'd probably be better. But I'm assuming they've worked through all these different options, and this is the best one they came up with for a variety of reasons. Some which appease guests, and some probably which appease investors. But yeah, so I think I just hope they nail it. And at 5-10 10 years from now, it just feels amazing to be in there.
Well,
and
let
that
me
it
ask you
feels
this.
worth it.
Let me ask you a couple questions here. So, why not Cars? Why don't you think Cars belongs there? As
I'm
your
just-
gut reaction.
My gut reaction is that it's too modern. It's like not real enough. I don't know if that's the right word. You know, cars with faces and stuff like that just doesn't feel like
Okay.
what you fit with the Frontierland. I mean, obviously things are fantastical with, you know, Tiana's Bayou Adventure and things like that, and the Haunted Mansion, even though it's Liberty Square. I just don't know if Cars fits, and then zipping around doesn't really fit, and how that mountain's going to look right there. I don't know. I'm just
Well, here's
Yeah.
my, like, I respect that opinion, and it's totally valid, right? Like, my first inclination here in Cars is like, that doesn't really kind of make sense now, because you think Cars of, you know, modern, you know, raceways and technology. You know, was it Cars 3? They had like all the advanced, like all the stuff in that movie type of thing, like technology wise. And you know, Disney fan one in chat saying it doesn't really fit. Or Frontierland or Liberty Square. I kind of agree and disagree on that, and that's kind of like I don't know. Maybe I'm making an excuse here. I think there's going to be a transition, like Josh Amaro had mentioned, that from Frontierland is no longer going to be Cowboys and Indians Frontierland. Frontierland is going to become the I don't know, the out west wilderness, frontier wilderness type of stuff. Looks like we might just lost Phil there, but I'll fill in. And if you're streaming, you're going to see a double picture of me here watching. I don't know, like with Cars Land going in there, I think it's going to fit. If we looked at the concept art, there's plenty of water features. There's mountains. I don't know how the mountains are going to fit in there. That for sure is going to be interesting. I hope it's not too claustrophobic when it comes to getting in and out of the parks or around that area where the mountains are just basically kind of oppressive and kind of working your way down, looking at you that way. And it's kind of might be a little claustrophobic. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about, there's also an update for Adventures Campus. Stark Flight Labs. It's going to be basically essentially a KUKA arm that's going to grab you and throw you in the air and kind of spin you around and pretend that you're flying. It's going to be actually pretty interesting. I'm going to take off my camera here so you can just watch my face and not the mirror of me. It was really interesting, the video showing off this ride vehicle where the ride vehicle was brought to the KUKA arm. The KUKA arm then attached to you and then started doing things. But it looked like they were all kind of doing those things all at once. And they talked about exposing the ride vehicle and being part of the show versus like hidden with theming or anything else like that. So I'm very curious or hesitant to say what this ride is going to be. But it's really, the technology is really cool. And the fact that they could get it, you know, safely connected, that sort of thing. I'm going to go and basically go through the connection, construction updates, and hopefully, we might have Phil back.
Sorry.
Hold on.
Can you
I
hear
got
me?
to transition back into the scene. Yes, you're in.
Okay, sorry about my computer just stopped responding to anything. I had to
That is not good.
Yep.
But if people could check and say they can hear Phil and see Phil, I hear and see you fine. So we're gonna go on. I just briefly went over the Avenger Campus update for Disneyland.
Yeah, the main thing with the Stark test lab thing. Yep.
And I basically said it looks really awesome. I love how it connects safely, but I'm really curious how it's going to look where it's just like a naked KUKA arm, and that's part of the story, right? Like, how are they going to bring that into the story element? So I'm really interested. But let's move on to construction updates. Not many this week. So just for Magic Kingdom, the Emporium gift shop got a new look, and I think it was Jim Scholl that had a comment on Twitter how it's like he would get fired if he ever did anything like this. What are your thoughts on this? Does it matter? Is it something that you
Yeah, I
care
mean,
about?
I think it's one of those things where if you like traditional looks, this is less traditional. It's
Yep.
more of like brighter with stone floors and stuff like that versus the wood and kind of that sort of thing. Feels almost a little more Epcot-y and stuff like that. I've heard even on, WW Magic, where some people are negative about it, somebody actually went there in person, was like, it looks a lot better in person than it does in the photos.
Surprise.
They're also not done yet, so there are some areas where the flooring meets and it's kind of looks a little cheap how they did, but it's not done yet. I don't know. Without seeing it in person, it's hard for me to comment too much. I don't immediately love it, but I also don't hate it. And it's a store that's supposed to show off merchandise, and if it's brighter and does that, I know WWNT comment. I guess there's one spot where there were shelves on at a corner, but there was a little gap, and so Tom went into the corner and that sort of thing. It was complaining about how it was poor layout and stuff like that. But it's like, I don't know. There's just got to be. I mean, I guess maybe if that's what we're complaining about, that's probably a good thing because it seems relatively small. But I guess the idea is if there's small things wrong, that means there's big things wrong. Whatever. I don't know.
Fine.
I'm sure there's reasons for designing it this way. They're not spending money to redo it to make it worse on purpose, right? So there was design choice behind it. I think it was to make it brighter. They took out at least one, I think, booth or something in the middle to make the flow better and stuff like that. So
it's awful walking through that place too.
Yeah, so I think they're trying to improve that, which when it's empty or it's kind of like a low crowd day and you want to wander through there, it doesn't matter. But when it's like packed and you're just trying to get from one room to the other, it's a nightmare. So I think it's trying to help with people that have that negative experience. And if it comes a little bit at the expense of some style or something like that, I guess they feel the trade-off's worth it.
So what do you think about the question of the store needs to be themed, it needs to be fun, it needs to be like the world of Disney from Disney Springs from like a decade ago type of thing? Do stores like that need to have that level of theming, especially like an Emporium that's like this huge like main shop for Disney World?
I definitely think it needs to have some theming. It can't just look like you're at a Target or something like that. But I also don't think it needs to be. I know some people pine for the old Disney stores in the malls that were, had tons of stuff and the mountains of stuffed animals and stuff like that. Like I always found that a little like chaotic and stressful being in. So I think there's probably a happy medium, and I think that's probably what they're trying to get to. Sensibilities change a little bit. People want cleaner looks and just ease of getting through. So I think there's a way to do that and still be themed. But obviously when you're dealing with something that's sort of set in a certain time period, it's hard to balance that.
Yep, for sure. Tropical Mary's Cementosaurus has been demoed. When did we say this was going down, Phil?
I thought I thought I guessed May 1st, and you were like, "Oh, that's way too early."
Whoops.
And I also said, I don't know how they're going to do it because I can't imagine them taking it all down at one time. So there'll probably be at least a photo from BioReconstruct with like the headless thing. Nope. Took it all down in one night.
One night, no one knew it was happening. It was gone. I guess demo is actually pretty easy when you just got to knock down cement, I suppose.
I guess so, yeah.
I guess there wasn't too much rebar and everything else in there. They came down easily enough, which the thing never fell down. So I guess that's down. So basically, the whole area in Tropical America, in whether they're doing the demo work, everything is gone. It is now just a dirt pit, right? There's some cement, I think, left over from Triceratops Spin, but even
that's getting cleaned up. And then the other thing I saw was comparing the overviews. I think I might have tweeted it out. Was a lot of the trees kind of going towards the backstage area have been taken down as well.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so it's not just the actual area, but like between there and sort of the backstage area where the parking lots and stuff are, a lot of the trees have been taken out.
So another update in Epcot, Mission Space, the Earth is spinning around. I saw that. I don't know if that's just, I saw an old tweet or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That whole area, it seems like you thought it was done, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're working on this planet, or the Earth's spinning, now it's not. And then, so I don't know. They're slowly working on it. Hopefully it'll be done at some point.
We're talking. Everybody's always talking about how like the lights in the center of Epcot and World Celebration are constantly being fixed and worked on and all this other stuff. I don't worry about these lights. Like there was a big post about, some lights are not working, the angles are messed up on the fountains in the front of the park, that sort of thing. The fact that they're working on all the details around the park tells me that, it stinks that it's broken right now, but they are going to fix it. This is not the Disney of like 7 years ago, where they're like, oh, they're going to let all the effects break. They are actively working across all 4 parks on property to make a lot of these little things work. So, I'm giving them some grace to make sure that they're going to try to get this working and working properly. Or it's on a list somewhere to get done, right? It's a priority, right? It's not like whatever. That because Phil, I am looking forward to the day. This probably won't happen until our 10th anniversary on this show. I'm willing to bet, where this cynicism about Disney, how they're constantly cutting things and they're cheap and they're delaying and all this other stuff goes away. We can get back to being excited about like what's coming up from Disney without being like cynical Sons of Guns on the internet type of thing, and stuff like that. And I think we're like a quarter of the way there, I think, but it's just got to seep into people. People need to see some more things. So anyway, mission space, the Earth is spinning now. So not a big thing, but again, we're gonna go back to this spreadsheet that I'm making, and be like, see all the little details that kind of got tweaked throughout the year, and I think that's going to be kind of interesting to kind of revisit in some time. All right, what's next, Phil? What are we doing? Are we doing? What are you doing next year, Phil? What's your next adventure?
Yeah, so as people know, we just had our quick down and back trip report. Because over the winter break, when the kids are off, we usually try to go somewhere, and we weren't going to go this year because pricing was getting crazy for travel anywhere warm. We did the last minute down and back because we found some cheap flights. Well, we wanted to kind of get ahead of it and just trying to think of like, well, what could we do, even if it's not Florida or not Disney or whatever? Are there other areas we could go? And I was like, well, what if, and we're not skiers, so we don't want to go like cold. My wife hates the cold, so she doesn't want to go somewhere colder if we're going to pay to go somewhere, really. But there's a place my wife's always wanted to go, and I looked up flights and found fairly reasonable prices. And so we've already booked our trip for next February, quite a bit different than this year where it was like 3 weeks out. I think we booked it or so. Now we're like 11 months out, but we're actually going to be going to Paris. And we're going to be spending 4 nights in Paris and then 3 nights at Disneyland Paris. That's going to be a new park for us. I mean, I remember last year when we were looking for flights down for our cruise, some of the flights into like, Miami directly or Orlando, like they were, we had to go to another airport. They were like upwards of $800 a person or something like that for not that much more. We're flying premium economy, so pretty nicer over to Paris for that time. So we already have that booked. We have the flights booked. We have like an apartment in Paris booked, and this is where we splurged a little bit. We decided to do the package because if you book actual on-property Disney hotels at Disneyland Paris, it's a whole package. You can't just book the hotel, really. So we're staying at the Disneyland Hotel. It's the most expensive hotel room I've ever paid for.
Oh boy!
But it's kind of like what we talked about with Lightning Lane Premier Pass, where it's like if it's a once in a lifetime trip, you spend the money. So we're like, if we're going to do it, if I'm going to spend X, I'll spend a little bit more than X and kind of get the best experience there. So that's the hotel. That's literally the entrance to the park. Like you have to walk through the hotel to get into the park.
So cool.
So so we're pretty excited about that. We're obviously doing a lot of research, and one of the reasons we did the package was normally if you're not staying on property, you can only book the restaurants there. I believe it was 2 months out, but a lot of the popular restaurants sell out by that point, because if you're staying in a Disney hotel, you can book as soon as you book your room. So I think it's up to a year in advance. So we already have 3 restaurants booked, including 2 of the really hard ones to get. Which both my daughters are really excited for is the Remy's Bistro, which is the one. So they have the Remy's Adventure over there. But then at the end of it, you kind of walk past an actual Remy's restaurant. And so you eat there, and it's like all the chairs and stuff are made out of like bottle caps and stuff like. So it's the idea is like you're the size of Remy and you're eating at the restaurant. So my daughter's very excited about that. And then the one restaurant I wanted to eat at is Waltz, which is on the main street in Disneyland Paris. And so we have that one booked too. So we're pretty excited. We're doing tons of research, more for Paris now at this point than Disneyland Paris, but
sure,
it's another adventure. It's always fun to have something booked and something where it's going to happen because we have the flights and stuff like that.
You have to do it now.
And I figure by now when the dollar to the euro is pretty good, who knows what's going to happen a year from now.
I'm just going to have to now book about a month in like end of February, early March, just to have your trip report done, because this is going to be like a 5-parter, like a literally like 5-parter that's deserved, because that's going to be an awesome experience for you guys. I can't wait. Yep. Especially seeing all the new stuff that's in the studios park.
Yeah, there's a lot of different stuff. There's obviously some things are similar. Yeah, so it was the Walt Disney Studios. I know the name's changing to the Disney Adventure Park. I'm not sure if it's happening yet or once the Frozen Land opens, which probably won't be open when we go there. But there's definitely a lot of unique rides and some just different spins on things. Like instead of Haunted Mansion, they have Phantom Manor and stuff like that. So that's
going to be so much fun. I'm very, very excited for you. Of course, I just have to go to boring old Disney World for a week and a half in the summertime. Now, as soon as my wife's going to hear that, she's like, "Why can't we do that?" Because I don't know why. Maybe next time we do something like that. Now you might have me make me a global traveler with my family. So we'll see. Okay, so this is a game. We're going to play a game. We're going to rank them, coming attractions on thrill level. Phil, I believe this was your idea.
Yeah.
What are we going to play?
Yeah. So, and I don't know how much of a game it's going to be or just kind of discussing it, but it got me thinking of with all the new attractions coming, including some of the shows and stuff that are coming this year. Um, it really got me thinking about when people were talking about Villains Land and like, what's the intensity and scare level of those rides going to be? Like, are kids going to be too scared to go into Villains Land? Are they going to not go that scary and kind of feel underwhelming to adults that want, it a little bit more and that sort of thing? So it kind of made me think, okay, if we think about all the things coming, which there's quite a few, what order do we think is going to be from like, I have it listed from my thoughts. What's the tamest one kind of for the youngest kids or whatever, up to the most thrilling one. And I'm kind of wondering if you agree with me or how you would order it and that sort of thing.
Okay. So how do you want to do this?
I was thinking I'll just start talking and once I get to one that you're like, oh no, that should be higher or lower or something, let me know.
Okay, so you're going to start with the tamest, and
I'm going to start with the tamest and go to
scarier as we go along. Okay.
Exactly, or more intense, or however we want to word it. So kind of so the tamest one I think is going to be the Cars Land second attraction.
Well, I mean, you're wrong already.
I'm wrong already. Okay.
Yes, but go ahead.
Okay, the second tamest I think is going to be the Carousel at Tropical Americas.
I think you got to swap them. I don't think there's anything. I just remember my youngest or oldest daughter with the like Cars thing or the Speedway. She wouldn't ride by herself like 2 years ago. Okay. She was like scared of that. So I think if you have just a tiny element where maybe you get old enough where you can go by yourself, that might be intimidating to some people.
Okay.
Again, we're comparing this simple attraction to a carousel. And the carousel, like anybody goes on, right? So I think to me that would be the tamest.
Yep. Then I have two shows coming next. I have the Mermaid Show that's about to open, or probably should have already been open by now. I'm not sure why it's not open yet. And then also the new Monsters Inc. show that we know nothing about, but I'm assuming both of those will be fairly tame and family friendly.
I'm assuming the Monsters Inc. show is still going to be like a version of Gathering Laughter, right? So it's not going to be like all of a sudden the monsters are we got to scare you again type of thing.
No, it'll be another variety act or something like that. Then I have the Zootopia Zoogether show. The only reason I have that as maybe a little bit more intense is because we know how it's tough to be a bug. You're kind of in the cave, you're underground. Some of the 4D effects and stuff could startle some kids. I'm assuming it's not going to be as much as it's tough to be a bug because I know that really scared some kids, but I figure might have some milder version of that.
See, like, I don't know. I mean, I would want to rank this higher, but I look at all the other things and I'm like, I can't rank it higher. So... Yeah.
I still think it's going to be upbeat and fun and stuff like that. I mean, maybe you could flip it with the next one I have, which is the Encanto Dark Ride. I think that's going to be like an everybody ride, but it's still going to be, in the dark. It's going to be, we don't know how much movement it's going to have and stuff like that. But
yeah, I mean,
probably similar.
Having the shows here, I mean, I think you can easily put them in whatever order. I just don't know how I don't think there's going to be any thrill level to Encanto. It's going to be a fun story ride, right? Type of thing. So
yeah, I just didn't know how much like effects they might have in it that could startle people and stuff like that. But
I mean,
it's fairly
attractive track. The attraction is on a track. Yeah, I can't say track to traction. That doesn't sound good. Where there's not going to be like a drop in Pirates where you get the little like 10-foot like
right
kind of thing. I can't think of any other dark ride that has any thrill elements other than like maybe like Rise, if you want to count that as like a thrilled attraction. So
right,
I guess it's where it needs to be, I suppose.
Yep. Then I have the Villain Show, which I think is still going to be fairly lighthearted, but just because it's villains could scare some kids.
I think it's just going to be like a comedy show almost, where like they're going to get exasperated with the audience booing them or something else like that. So I think it's going to be fun. I don't think it's going to be scary at all.
Yep. Then I have the Cars Land main attraction, which is supposed to be, going up and down hills and bumps and stuff like that. Still fairly tame, but some people might see the hill outside and be like, oh, I don't know about that type thing. Then I have the Monsters Inc. coaster, which again, we talked about earlier. Maybe for some kids seeing the lift and stuff like that could be a little intimidating, and it's going to hopefully zip around a little bit. And it's just an indoor coaster, which I think, some people get a little scared about just being in the dark and the unknown and stuff.
See, I would put this coaster farther down the thrills.
More
scale.
thrilling.
Yeah, because I mean, it is a coaster. It is kind of intimidating looking when you're, or at least the modeling is for a 9 or 10-year-old type of thing. Because the next one you've got here is Villain Land Dark Ride.
And that's the one that I'm kind of the most unsure of, because I think that's the one that could go. It could be kind of scary and that sort of thing, or it could be again kind of more lighthearted and more family friendly. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I think they'll probably want at least one attraction in that area to be that everybody can go on. And I don't think the coaster is going to be everybody can go on. So yeah, it's probably should be more listed more team than the Monsters Inc. coaster.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Villains Land Dark Ride, depending on the theming of the land, right? I think we talked about this like 2 weeks ago or something, that like we need more like story driven. It can't be a book report on a specific villain, because you got to have all the villains.
Yeah.
So I hope that the land itself is telling the story, whatever it's like, the villains ran away to go hide in this land, or this is where they all come to hang out type of thing. I think that Dark Ride should be a book report of the story of the land itself, right? And again, I don't think it'll be spooky at all or scary compared to like a coaster, I guess.
Yeah, so I probably should at least flip-flop those. The next one I have is the Indiana Jones ride, which, by the way, if people haven't listened to or read the Touring Plans article about, Len went to an archaeological presentation, as one does when you're Len Testa, and I guess there was Imagineers talking about all the work they're doing to be thematically accurate with it being a Mayan temple and stuff. So the details sounded really cool, and this did sound like you could be potentially going into like the underworld and stuff like that. So there could be some kind of a little bit more scary elements to it, I think.
I mean, it's not a gentle attraction, right?
No,
it's still the
it's
same
not.
track.
Yeah.
The bumps and stuff are going to be controlled differently with the hydraulics on the ride vehicle, but it's not like it's going to be a smooth thing. It's going to be an adventure ride, and you're going to get jerked around because you're going to get chased. Yep. You're going to go after some things. So we don't know what the story is, but yeah, if you have some time, go read the article by Len Testa on Touring Plans blog. It has a lot of cool pictures from a presentation down there, like to live the life of Len Testa that you just happen to find like a presentation by Imagineers and Joe Rohde, and just kind of sit there and listen to them type of thing. Yeah. So they're putting the time and effort into making this authentic, which I'm really excited about. But there's going to be a monster in there, so the thrill level is probably, I would say it's probably on par with Dinosaur. It could potentially be a little bit spookier, only because if they do a good job of the theming leading up to the building, like really, make it look like you're going through a jungle rather than just like a concrete like path leading up to like the Institute type of thing, they could really make the build up to this attraction like really that's cool, true. I think so. That might lend some like ominous feelings or something for the young ones.
Yeah, so maybe I should move this one to be a little bit more thrilling than the next one, which I have, which is Test Track 3.0. Obviously, it has that outdoor part that goes fast and stuff like that, but it's fairly smooth versus Indy, which is going to be bumpy and stuff like that in the dark. And I think if the Test Track 3.0 is supposed to harken back to World of Motion, I think it's going to have more of a positive message, for lack of a better word. So, I mean, well, obviously still going, it's the fastest ride right at Disney World, so there's a thrill level to that, but it might not be as scary as some other things.
I never got like the Test Track, like once it goes outside, it goes fast, that like people are like, it's the fastest ride. It's like being in your car going down the highway. We went faster coming down to Disney World while I was driving on this attraction. And because you're outside, your speed is relative to the stuff that's around you, and it looks like you're just driving in a car and you're just doing like a little bank type of thing. It's not like you've
never been in a convertible. I guess it's a little different, but yeah.
So I would put Test Track 3.0 right around, probably below the Cars Land main attraction, because I think the Cars Land main attraction might be a little scarier. Even if they're going like 4 miles an hour, relatively slow or whatever, you might have it play where you're going over these dirt tracks. You might be bumping around and kind of,
Oh, are you going to fall off the edge or
maybe they'll do some stuff like that. So I think it might be. So then again, Test Track might be super fast and cool. I don't know, but like if it's the same track and the same speeds, I think I've never heard. Not that I would say never heard. My kids, and I don't really hear many other kids like chickening out of this attraction, essentially, after seeing it.
Yep. And then the last two, which I think probably everyone can agree on, is the Muppets coaster, which is the indoor. It's Rock and Roller Coaster, just rethemed, but it's got loops and inversions and in the dark and stuff like that. So it's still going to be fairly intimidating and have a higher height requirement and stuff like that. And then the last one, which I'm hoping is going to be the most thrilling, is the Villains Land coaster that was in there, which, I don't know if it'll get as high as something like Velocicoaster and stuff like that, but I'm assuming it'll have some inversions and be scary and go through bright, thorn bushes and things like that. So,
do you think Disney would make a bare steel coaster to get those sort of inversions at the Magic Kingdom, even if they could probably you build like dark steel type of thing, you can make it really look like a briar patch going in circles and stuff like that. You can really blend that stuff in so it looks like it's in place.
Yeah.
Do you think Disney would go that direction to have like their answers of Velocicoaster?
I don't know if it's going to be as much as Velocicoaster. I mean, it maybe.
Well, let's say 80% of Velocicoaster.
Yeah, I think it might be. I mean, I don't think it's going to get as high, but I think that you could fit in some, corkscrews and barrel rolls and stuff like that while still being relatively low to the ground, especially if you have a couple launches and stuff like that.
And you think it's going to be outdoors and stuff like that? Like, is that your guess? Is that your feeling? Like,
yeah, that's my guess or my feeling.
Okay.
I think it'll be outdoors. I think it'll be kind of go in and out and stuff like that. Like I think through the thorn bushes, through caves and stuff like that. But you'll see it going around when you're in the land and stuff like that, and it'll be a little intimidating, I think.
So you think they're going to use this for like kinetic energy in that land?
I think it'd be at least partly, in the one area. Yeah.
I think that would be smart. I like it. So the only thing is, I like how you place this last because it's a little bit of the unknown. We're telling you it's going to be. We think it's going to be more thrilly than the Muppets Coaster, Rock and Roller Coaster.
I mean, maybe at the end of the day, it doesn't have as many G forces and stuff like that, like the Muppet Coaster. Like that Rock and Roller Coaster has. So maybe it'll be. You could switch those two, but I think it'll have like that scary element, right? Like
I like the optimism that we're going to get like a more thrilling ride in Magic Kingdom. I think that's really
because I do. Well, they want obviously, especially Magic Kingdom is going to be for everybody. Villains is kind of aimed and it's the older Disney fans, the Disney adults and stuff that have been kind of pining for Villains Land, right? So I think they want to have something that, again, it's not going to be universal level. It's not going to be Cedar Point and stuff, but
I mean, we still have Descendants going on, right?
Yeah,
so Villains is
true.
a big property with Disney World. So not to say that they shouldn't put something for the older crowd, but I think they're going to want something that draws families in that direction of the park, right?
Yeah.
So I'm surprised they're not doing a show or any other kind of entertainment in that area.
I'm sure there will be some sort of
I would hope
dinner
so.
show or something like that.
But I think the area needs to be cool enough to draw all families in that direction, and also have the a firework viewing area they could draw people away from Main Street. But that's again a story for another day. So okay, we finally got done with rank 'em. I like the way you did it. The only thing I just had a joke with you about the carousel should be number 1 versus the second.
Yeah, so I was wrong right off the bat, so that's good.
At
least I know where I stand on things.
There's no wrong answer with this one.
No, I get it. I'm wrong. It's all good.
Okay, fine. Okay, we are just approaching the 1 hour mark, and I think that's perfect time to dive into our DVC engagement.
Yep.
What land are you most looking forward to at Epic Universe, and what dining location are you most interested in trying? What are the other specific things that entice you? Phil, I don't know. Like, I haven't really thought about this because Epic Universe is not a reality for me yet. I keep talking about my upcoming trip in July. There's somewhere in the back of my head saying, I think if I can get a ticket, I'm going to go. But at this point, like,
you can't.
I'll wait until
plan
May
for
to
it, right?
plan this out, that type of thing. So I don't have any dining locations or anything else. I know you're staying there, so you're actively thinking about this. So why don't you lead off with your thoughts?
Yeah, and one thing that I think is interesting is because the plan is if we go, then it's when just my wife and I are going down. So I think that's increasing my interest in doing Dark Universe, which is the monsters area, and supposedly that Monsters Unchained ride is amazing, and just like all the theming they have in there, and the food and that sort of thing, especially at night, the flaming windmill and stuff. But I do wonder if our first trip down, like if this summer we were going down and it was the whole family, because I know at least some of my kids would not be into this at all. So would that change my answer? But at least for me, knowing that it's going to be just my wife and I, that's the one we're the most looking forward to. I will also say I was surprisingly interested in just Celestial Park, the entranceway. It just looks like really cool, the architecture to it and how it flows. And they have Stardust Racers, and that's where the nighttime show is going to be.
That area of the park bores me completely. To be honest with you.
I was going to say, after the feedback so far has been kind of like, well, it looks pretty, but it looks kind of barren. There's not much to it. There's just a bunch of bars and things like that. So I would say after, feet on the ground reports, that's probably the one that I was like really looking forward to, that maybe not as good as I was hoping. Whereas some of the other areas, and we'll hear it in some of the other takes from people, I think are maybe exceeding expectations once people get in there. So
I haven't been reading any reports about Epic Universe. I've been trying to keep myself like completely blind to that, other than just like looking at pictures and stuff like that. Because I'm waiting for a vlogger to go in with a video camera so I can get the perspective of somebody on the ground as they're seeing things and also get their opinion. Because right now our perspective is, 10,000 feet in the air or however high by who reconstruct
and then
and taking pictures. And the park is not designed for the perspective of somebody that's overhead, right? It's
right.
walking through. My concerns with the area, why I think it looks boring, is I think a lot of the lighting tricks in this area look really I don't know, tacky or like weird. Like it just looks like, a teenager's birthday party kind of like place to go to, like a Chuck E. Cheese almost. It doesn't look good. I could be completely wrong, right? Because we don't have good pictures of it at night. The lighting package for what do they call the thing of the entrance to the park that spins around?
The time,
whatever it is. The lighting package of that looks kind of lame to me. I have to say that the fountain water effects that I saw online today look really awesome. So I'll give definitely thumbs up for that. But I don't know. You're going through this area and you just have a giant exposed steel roller coaster just kind of going through that kind of, to me, like ruins any kind of theming because a big giant steel structure kind of just like.
I think it is more off to the side, but I get your point. If that's
when you
something
see
that catches
it,
your
right?
eye right as you come in,
right. And again, maybe that's completely wrong, and you don't really see it because of the way the buildings are positioned and stuff like that. And I could be, but again, I have the vision of from the air type of thing. But again, I like the idea of portals. My personal interest is the Isle of Berk. I'm not a huge How to Train Your Dragon fan. I enjoyed the movies, right? We watched them a handful of times with the family, none too recently. But I love the story. I love the idea. And just like the architecture of that land just looks really fun and awesome. With all the water, the boats, the water gun type, squirting type of stuff. And it seems like the most interactive land so far. I mean, we saw a lot of what the Nintendo area is going to be.
Because that's been in other parks,
everywhere, right? I really like the Monsters, Universal Monsters area, but I think that's just going to be more like you have some shops, you kind of walk around, you see a flaming windmill, and you go probably the best ride in the park is probably going to be that Frankenstein.
It's either
ride,
that
right?
or the Ministry of Magic, but which isn't working yet.
Well, we don't know when that's going to open, so we can't count that one. So Island of Berk, I think, just for the immersive air land. If I'm excited about one specific ride, it's the Frankenstein ride. I think so. That would be my answer. Did I cut you off before you gave your final answer?
No, that was all good. That was it. No, I mean, maybe I'll just add to yours is that I think my homework assignment, if we do go, is to actually watch the How to Train Your Dragon movies because I haven't seen any of them. So.
No, don't do it because you could be the type of person that walked into Pandora Flight of Passage not knowing what anything is. And see
maybe that's what I'll do is I'll go in cold and then watch the movies after or something like that.
You can have that unique experience where you experienced all this. Did they do a good job capturing the movies after seeing that first? I think that'd be a cool thought experiment.
All right. Well, then I don't have any homework, so good deal.
Yeah. Well, no one likes homework, especially in the summertime. So, what did the community say, Phil? Do you want to read them or do you want me to?
Yeah. I'll go through them quick. Mama Six said her engagement is that her family is most looking forward to the Isle of Berk, especially after some of the first impressions that have come out, which is I've seen from multiple people that this is sort of the area that impressed them the most or surpassed their expectations. Maybe they had lower expectations for it and that it surprised them how good it was. She also adds that a few of her kids will be too scared for Dark Universe, even though she feels like it's most popular among a lot of adults that are looking forward to Epic. They likely won't spend very much time there, and they aren't interested to see what the nighttime entertainment is like. TL Madden said because their kids' ages and interests is easily the Isle of Berk. Which seems to have kind of what you were saying, kind of the most things going on for families to do, like the most attractions and stuff like that.
Well, Disney Fan 1 in chat says Dark Universe. I think that's gonna be a lot of people's favorite as they go as they start experiencing it because that clip of all those animatronics looks just really awesome what they're going to do. So I'm curious to see if because there's a lot of Island of Berk praise going out there in the media, right? Does that flip at some point down the road? I think that it'd be interesting to see all the pre-hype to the hype of the masses type of thing.
Yeah, once the average family gets in there too, not even just the opening week crowd, but once kind of the family from Denver gets there, what do they think?
Well, no, families in Denver only go to or Disney. It's the families from Michigan that go to Universe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Terrible.
T.L. also said he thinks his kids will be interested in the Wizarding World, not as much the ride, but because of the immersiveness and being able to use your wands with the spells, which that was something that came out today. The or not today, but recently was the version 2.0 of the wands are now for sale, and they have like a battery in them. So they have like haptic feedback and stuff like that. So it's supposed to improve the, and make it more like repeatable and that sort of thing.
We've done those at, oh goodness. I was going to say Wilderness Lodge, not Wilderness Lodge. The water park, the indoor water park, Great Wolf Lodge.
Oh, okay.
They have like a little wand thing, video game that they can play.
Gotcha. And then the last one was Wheezy, who had an interesting take of said he's truly not excited about any of the portals. He said they seem cool in their own way, but I'm not really a fan of any of the IPs. But he said what he's just most looking forward to is what does a theme park, a brand new theme park that's opening in 2025 look like? And he points out the last major parks was 1998 for Animal Kingdom and 99 for Islands of Adventure. So we're at a quarter of a century since a major theme park opened in the area, and just sort of like how has it evolved and that sort of thing. He also mentions he's kind of interested in some of the little things, such as like how quick service restaurants work. Now that we know about mobile order and they're built for mobile ordering, right. How does that all work out? And he also said how the bathrooms are, because he looks at like sort of Pandora and Galaxy's Edge and how like themed they are. Is every single bathroom in the park going to be like hyper themed and stuff like that? See. So yeah, so I think that was an interesting take of like not really any of the IP. It's just the other things that involve being a theme park.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna like. Testa posted a picture somewhere on Blue Sky. I think it was Blue Sky, where he was sitting down there. He was at a desk with a big screen, and he's got like the map of the park, and of course he's doing his nerd data collection stuff with a ruler, like. Mm-hmm. Measuring the space out in relation to that with some of the pictures from BioReconstruct, and he's already creating like touring plans, like how many steps does it take and the distances and stuff like that.
I'm sure they're all awesome. Arrive at 6:30.
Yeah,
and do in this order, and then you'll be done by 10:15.
I don't think you can be done that early.
No,
with this
probably
park, not. But he's going to try for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, so this week's DVC engagement, we're not going to be recording live next week unless we decide to do it on Sunday night. But typically, I don't know. Maybe, we don't do live we'll think about that.
Yeah.
Because I'm traveling for work, and I think for the next 2 weeks, we might be on and off with our scheduling. It's funny. We've done the show for almost 5 years now. I don't even know what our anniversary date is.
I've been starting the next season in March when I label all the folders and stuff like that. So we've started season 6 now.
Oh, look at that. We didn't even celebrate our season 6 start.
And next week is actually going to be our 250th episode.
There we go. Perfect. So maybe we'll celebrate there. We did a show of like the last 200 episodes of like where we started, whatever. I feel like that was just like 5 weeks ago. That I know. We don't need to do that again, but maybe we can. In any case, it's funny. In the going into the 6th year of the show, I think for the first 4.5 years, we never missed a show. Though some of us maybe missed an episode where we covered that, but we always recorded on the same day for the most part, unless we had guests on.
Yeah.
And the last like 3 weeks, it's like we've been missing out on shows and guests, and also not guests, but like having guest hosts and stuff like that because our work schedules and stuff.
Yeah, like it's stupid work getting in the way.
Ah, man.
Well,
anyway, this week's
got to pay to get to Disney somehow. So
that's it. We got to pay those bills. Anyway, this week's DVC engagement for everybody out there is how thrilling should the Villains coaster be? I think this is an interesting conversation. Like,
that's a good
one. Should it be exposed steel? Should it be all indoors? Should it have massive height to it, like the big loops and stuff like that? What should the height requirement be for kids? Should it match Rock and Roller Coaster? Should it match Velocicoaster? Should it be a young one's kind of like a mine train type of Seven Dwarfs Mine Train height? What kind of kinetic energy for the outdoors? Like, how are you envisioning the thrill and the theming of this, and how it should be used to benefit the park? So I don't know. I think it's a good conversation to have. We're not going to know anything about it for like 4 years at this point. So
yeah, we'll keep receipts though, and
absolutely, we will shame you if you're totally wrong,
and give you a cookie if you're right or something.
Absolutely, plenty of cookies. We have a lot of Girl Scout cookies here at home, so we can do that. All right, Phil. Anything that we might have forgotten to mention?
No, I think you covered it all. I think we got there.
Awesome.
And of course, we went long, just like always, but.
About 10 minutes, yeah, for sure. But anyway, thank you for watching and listening, everybody. We appreciate you joining us live. Chat was awesome today, and we will see you next time.
Take care, everyone.